Hello Sentinels, and my name's Gavin S Readman, and today I'm going to be doing a mini masterclass on problem solving. So I'm going to be concentrating on some of the things that as ADHD or somebody with ADHD, that it's one of your the superpowers and what they actually mean. And for me that basically means that the systems, so if you've heard me already in previous episodes talk about things like rest, rhythm, rituals, reminders and things like that, then that is what I'm talking about. So in this particular case, problem solving, we happen to be very good at it, specifically because a lot of people, they talk about thinking in or outside of the box, and as far as if you have ADHD, there's no such thing as a box. It just doesn't exist, because you are basically an open raw wire to all the input that's coming into from the outside world, and you take it all on board whether you like it or not. So for example, if I was sat down in a room and somebody opened the door and walked through, you might hear the door open and close. I would probably then hear the steps of the people. I'd turn around, have a look at them, find out whether there's anybody else that came through the door behind them, and and it goes on to be a complete story. And so how does that make us good problem solvers? Well, the other side of it is that with those things that I was talking about, those routines, rest, rhythms, rituals, etc., I build processes or plans to deal with things. That means that I'll set things up so that I don't need to think about them. So if I'm going out for example, for a business trip, I'll have something like a photograph of all the stuff that I need to take to make sure I take it with me. And just look at the photograph, it reminds me of all the stuff that I need. It's a visual aid, and for me that means that I don't forget anything that I need to take with me. So let's get into the way I divide problems up. Problems, quite simply, for me, and you can do this in any manner, shape or form you wish, but in this particular case I basically split them into two different things. One of them is basically business or organizational problems, and the second one is personal, or ones that have to do with something, your personal life or yourself. So that's different. And I say they are different because one is the Simon Sinek version of the world, which is when he's talking about organizations, which are the why questions, and that works. Or if you're talking about introspection, yourself, a problem with yourself or with a family member or somebody, a person, then you need to make sure you do not ask why questions. They don't do any good. And I'm very, very strong on the practical side of it. So why just gets you completely stuck. And to tell you the truth, a lot of the time you don't know why. But you do know how you got there, what got you there, where you are now, what you like and what you don't like. Those are questions that can actually help you then get you out of that situation, or if you like it, back into it again. So with that, let's start off with the Simon Sinek side of things, which is the organization, which is a company sort of related one. So I use how, what, where, when and whom. How, what, where, when and whom. And all I do is latch on to the beginning of that is a why question, which is, again, something from Simon Sinek. If you want to go and see his TED Talk, please do. It's fantastic. He has some very sensible things to say about how organizations should work and how the best ones do actually work. And certainly for the people working in the organizations, it's a lot better than the ones without. In my particular case, I've worked for Fortune 500 and 100 companies all across the world, in different nations, in Europe and America, and I can tell you there's a bloody big difference between the two when they get the why wrong. So if I use a why question and I use how, what, where, when, whom, and think about that why for a how. So what's been happening, how should it have been happening, and just answer that question. So how, what, so what's actually happened? That's the thing you're trying, that's actually occurred. Why is that? And I ask again the why question. Always put the why in front of it. So how, what, where. So again, why? Did it happen where it should have done? Does it mean that it should have happened somewhere else? When? Did it happen when it should have happened? And if it didn't, why didn't it? And then whom? Were all the right people involved? Were the wrong people involved? And if all of that doesn't match up to the way it should be, as systems in a business should, then why didn't it happen? Again, always why in front of each one of those questions, and that's basically a process that will very often lead you to the root cause of any problem, or from any problem to a solution of some description, whether that's post-mortem or pre-mortem. That means you've actually sat down and said, right, okay, I've done this very often in the past, it works very well, and it helps avoid problems. It's basically doing a pre-mortem. So that means you build a plan, you get the right people in the room, talk to everybody beforehand, get them to think of their thoughts independently. Don't let them talk to each other, they should think about it independently. Get them then in a room and then go through that plan and try and pick its pieces with those questions, using the why in front of each one. So how, what, where, when, whom. Okay? And then to the other side of it. Now, this is about introspection, or knowing ourselves. Now, as somebody with ADHD, I'm going to tell you, we don't really know ourselves that well. And probably can't, because we have ADHD. But with practice, you can actually get there. And also with some science, and I'm not going to kid you, I read a number of books on this, simply because of the fact that if you're halfway smart, that means you've got an IQ over about 120, and you happen to be an engineer or something like a professional, you overestimate how well you know yourself. So, the question I had is, how the hell, and the scientists actually went out and studied all of this, and they didn't find that many people that were really good about, very good at this. And I think it then, to me, was, okay, so that's fantastic. I know for a fact that I don't know myself that well. I spent a lot of time, over the years, you get to know yourself, know how you react in certain situations. You can write that down by journaling, but if you're talking about sort of on the fly, trying to solve these types of situations, and it can be in a business setting, also personal, or just in your life, but it is with people, and it's got nothing to do with an organisation. It's not a business setting as such, or the like of an organisational setting. It's person to person, problem to problem. So, and if really that all begins with yourself, because if you don't think about yourself, the problem is you are going to be a part of the problem. If you've got a problem, it's a personal one, you are part of the problem. You've got to put yourself on that list. If you don't, there will be no solution. Okay, so with that, so again, how, what, where, when, whom, and basically you cross off, in this particular case, the how and the what, because we're going to use those as prefixes to the question. So how, what, where, and where. So where are you now? What got you there? How did you get there? How does that feel? Good? Bad? And if that's the case, then how, what, where, when? So is it something that's happened and it happens on a daily basis, weekly basis, monthly basis? Is it a once in a lifetime thing? Is it something that happens when you haven't eaten? Or is it something that happens on an evening? How, what, where, when, who? Okay, obviously, in this particular case, it's yourself. It's got to start with you. Is there any solution to a problem that you're having? And it is with you in that particular environment. It's got to be partly you. So Who else is involved? How often were they involved? When have they been involved? What's been said? And if you are trying to solve personal problems or trying to understand yourself or the situation, or why you got there, then make sure that you also try and stick to solving one thing. Don't try multiple things at the same time, especially because if you have ADHD, it won't work anyway. Sorry, it's just a fact. Don't kid yourself. You can multitask in physical things, but multi-focus, that doesn't work. And because we have problems with self-regulation, if you have ADHD, then trying to do that is just madness. So just concentrate on one thing at a time. The most important thing. It's the reason why episode 1, all of these talks, has been, if you do something you've got to care about, it's important to you, and that's how you do anything, everything, and that's basically how your life turns out. Okay? And with that, that's it. It's how, what, where, when, whom, and either in a business sense, it's a why that you put in front of it. In a personal sense, it's you. It's then a what and a how. And don't use the why. Never use the why. If it's personal, it won't get you anywhere apart from being completely stuck and feeling like shit. And that's not what you want to do. You want to resolve something. You want to understand something about yourself or your relationships with a team, people, your wife, your spouse, your brother, your sister, whatever. Think about the whats and hows. Don't think about the whys. That won't do you any good. It isn't productive, and it'll just end up with you navel-gazing and ruminating about shit, and that does not do you any good. It's one of the reasons why Freud is basically being completely discredited over the last 50 years is because he basically did that. You were navel-gazing at yourself, and you basically never got anywhere. Okay, and with that, I'm done for the evening. Have a plan, be fun, foster wisdom wherever you see it, and I wish you a good morning, a good afternoon, or a good evening as it is here, and I'll see you again tomorrow. And with that, that's the end of this mini masterclass on problem solving.